Okay, so I'll be letting people join the room while I'm here, while I'm speaking. So just a quick introduction. My name is Sarah Bernal. I'm the Urban Agriculture Program Lead for CDFA. Just a big welcome and thank you to everybody for making time to join our final office hours today. Today is also the last day for any questions because I have to make them all public and type them up in a document. So, in terms of email responses, phone calls, this is the end of it today. The Q&A document that I've been adding, anyone who's written me an email, your questions have been documented in this document. I just updated it. I sent it out for approval and I'm trying to get it approved so I can post it to the web tomorrow. It just depends on the web team's ability to do that. So fingers crossed on that. But just a big announcement that today is the last day for questions and answers. So I really hope that everyone has a chance to get their questions answered today. Because I'm running this office hours on my own, I've been asking for people to please avoid using the chat just because it's hard for me to monitor the chat and also monitor everybody in the room. So if we can just go ahead and in the reactions button down at the bottom bar, you'll see a raise hand button. If folks could just use that little raise hand button, and that way we'll kind of keep a line or a queue of people's questions, and I'll answer people in order of how they come up on the screen with the raised hand function. And then aside from that, I apologize in advance if I get distracted at all while I'm letting people in the room. Windows are popping up for me, letting me know that people are joining. So I'll do my best. But for the sake of making sure that we make the best of everybody's time today, why don't we just go ahead and we'll just dive into questions, a little bit of background. I'm not able to answer like specific questions about your proposal or give you suggestions on how to write something in your proposal, but I am here to answer and guide you in any way that I can through the RFA or any other issues that you might be having. So, so we'll just all do our very best here. And I'll go ahead and get started right now with Christine. Please go ahead.
Is it okay? I have like 5 questions and hopefully they'll be really fast and then I promise I'm done. The photos that we're supposed to upload with the documents, can we put, I know it said a Microsoft Word, can we put all the photos and captions on one Microsoft Word?
Yep, absolutely. That makes it a lot easier for me and all the evaluators too, yeah.
Grant period, I noticed on the work plan, it said 3/24 to 9/26, which is what, 30 months, I think. And I thought it was for 2 years. So I'm trying to base like, because we're helping all these offsite distributions and I'm like doing all these numbers. So should I do 30 months or should I do 2 years?
Yeah. So all of the timelines with all CDFA grants are not always exact because there might be hiccups with evaluation. We might have to reopen it to allow people to fix things in their application that they got wrong. So what I would plan for to be safe is assuming that funding should be available more likely around May or June, and then it has to end September of 2026, the end of September. So September 30, 2026. So it's probably more like 28 months. Yeah, and that project work plan document went live and has been on the website since before we've made other adaptations. So that's why, and I apologize for those dates being confusing, but yeah, I mean, if you give yourself 2 years, that's a surefire, that's a pretty good bet. But I would say, May, June of 2024 through September 30th of 2026 would be an adequate way to do your work plan.
Okay, so I'm going to say June 2024 because we're saying for military, we help 150 military every month from this to this. So we'll say June 2024 to 9/26 and I'll add those up. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that would be safe.
And then I have just really quickly 2 budget questions. On the template, it says, do we have any? So we're asking for salary and then direct, we're doing direct and indirect salary and then indirect. So that's our farmers, our production, our post-harvest, that's our biggest thing. So then it says, do you have any other funding? Well, we just started our fiscal year, so we have nothing. Is it okay to put zero?
Yeah, actually, you're not using the template that's in the RFA for the budget. The budget is built into Amplifund. So
But then when I looked at the CDFA grant guidelines, it says you have to upload it. So I was like confused. Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
every single thing that is a part of the actual application is in Amplifund.
Okay,
So
that's what I thought. Okay, but I looked, then I went back to the grant guidelines aside from it. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just getting
no,
really
don't be
confused.
sorry. It's not you. It's just nothing's perfect, essentially, is the issue.
And I just want to make sure I'm not, because this is our last time. So I'm like, really.
Yeah,
And then for our budget for the actual, this is for the one that's on Amplifund.
Yep.
It asks about, the next one, it says for this year, if we have any other expenses. So for staff salary, is that for the next 2 years, or is it only for this year, what we're budgeting for our expenses?
No. Your budget should represent the duration of your whole project. So if you have 2 years of salary, then you have to represent that in your budget.
Even though we don't know what our next fiscal year is going to be, should we just estimate?
Yeah, everything's an estimate, essentially.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So when you're creating your budget, it's for the full, like, assuming, that you're operating from June of or May of 2024 through September 30th of 2026, all of that time period, whatever your operation costs will be for that period. Unless you only, want the project to run for a year. It's up to you. You don't have to have the project run through September 30th. It's just you're allowed to spend the funding through that period of time. So it's up to you. That it's not mandatory that you run your project, for as long as it's able to run. But yes, your budget should include all of the expenses for the duration of the period that you need funding.
Okay, I think that's it for me. Thank you so
great.
much. I might have another one, but for right now I'm good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Christine. Okay, next up is Danny.
Hi, Sarah. I hope you're doing well. So our organization is applying for track 1, and I had a few questions about the budget. I see that there's a category for technical assistance. What if the personnel is going to provide the technical assistance? Should we just leave the technical assistance section blank or add a 0?
Yeah, I mean, so you're saying that someone on your own staff is going to be providing technical assistance?
Yes.
Yeah, so they would just be part of your personnel. Yeah,
Okay,
the technical assistance line item will be for, like, if you want to hire somebody out to provide you with technical assistance.
Okay, sounds good. And then I had a question in regards to our internal ag project, and I guess overall, are refreshments allowed?
Yeah, so you'll see, like, yeah, there's for, like, community outreach events and things like that. Like, yes, you can absolutely, if you want to provide childcare, if you want to provide stipends to participants, if you want to provide food, like, all of those things are part of your outreach or community engagement process, then that would definitely be an eligible thing.
Sounds good. And I think just to, I have 2 more questions, I'm sorry.
Sure, that's okay.
Regarding the internal urban ag project, could our personnel be paid to do that work, or will there need to be a separate budget line item in regards to the internal urban ag project? I hope that makes sense. I know there was a lot.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think that's fine. Now what I regret is I wish that I could look at the Amplifund. Maybe I actually will just do that really quick, is open up the Amplifund budget to remind myself of what the line items are in track 1. For when you're writing out your budget and you're designating that funding for your internal urban ag project, you might want to line item, even if it is personnel, because the biggest cost is always human labor, right? For the most part. You might want to actually just line item in the narrative box. When you're building the budget in Amplifund, you click on the little green plus sign, and it allows you to, like, write in a text box what things are for. So, okay, wait, sorry. I'm actually looking at it right now just to make sure that Okay, yeah, so no, I'm sorry, Danny, in your budget, in Amplifund, there is a category D that says
Mhm.
internal urban agriculture program work. So any staff time that's associated with that internal agriculture program work should be put in that category box, in the D internal urban ag program work box.
And not the general personnel budget item, right?
Yeah, just to keep it separate so that we know how much of that $5,000 to $60,000 is going to be used for that specific project or program goal.
Sounds good. And I was also referring to the PowerPoint slides. And I think the maximum amount was I think 200 or 400,000, but I think on the RFA it's 800,000, right? Is that
Yeah,
still accurate or?
yeah, I'm not sure if you remember, but our budget got cut in half for like several months by the state. So then at that point, the grant maximum was 400,000. Then when we got another 6 million back from the general fund, it got increased to 800,000. So I'm sorry for that confusion. The maximum allowable ask for track one is 800,000.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, is that all, Danny? Okay, great. You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. I see Rob.
Hi, good afternoon, Sarah.
Hi.
I'm with Berkshire Village Association, and I have some questions about some documents. I don't know where to put them in the proposal. Are we required to put in our tax determination letter from state or the IRS somewhere?
So not in this application phase, you do not have to do that. If you're selected for an award, then you'll go into contracts where things get much more specific, and it's a more complicated, detailed process where we will start to collect more of that tangible information to get you registered with our payee system and all of that. But for the application phase, you do not need to upload any of those documents.
Okay, and that includes some contractor bids that we're getting on some work we want to have done to augment the project. Same thing.
Yeah,
don't
sorry to
see the
interrupt
bid.
you. You do not need to submit your bids. Just if you have estimates, just include that in your contractor line item of the budget. But aside from that, no bids need to be submitted. Again, once you're in contract, and if you win an award, then we'll start asking for bids and proof that, all of these different things. But at this stage, we're just looking for general proposals. A lot of people aren't even going to bid yet because they don't know if they got an award. So, so right now, for the sake of just keeping the process as simple as it can be, we're not asking for any of those documents during the application phase.
Okay, that's great. We just felt like if we really are going to do this project, whether we get this money from the grant here or someplace else. So we're just proceeding with the reality of what we're doing. Along that line, in terms of describing who we are, because we're a neighborhood, is a neighborhood map helpful besides just the census tract, since we're not the whole census tract?
Yeah, you're welcome to add any materials that help to tell the story of the community that you're serving. That narrative box is pretty flexible. You can upload links and stuff in there. So add as many materials as you feel is really relevant. Always keep in mind that the objective of this grant, is to serve priority populations. So projects either led by or serving priority populations. It is helpful to always just keep that point of reference in mind, essentially. But anything that you want to describe when you're describing the population served and then how your project is going to meet existing needs is going to be a great thing to include in your proposal.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Okay, next up, I see Kara.
Hi, just a couple quick questions. First, we're applying for a track 2 grant, and I noticed that on the track 1, it's split into regions. And I was wondering, on the track 2, is the region given consideration in terms of how the awards are granted?
So there's no legislation that gives us guidance on how much percentage needs to go to any region in track 2. What's going to happen essentially is we're going to do an evaluation once all of the applications come in, and then get an idea of how to distribute track 2 funds. So yeah, no, the answer is that like, no, there's no written guidance on track 2 distribution. Of course, there's always the desire to make sure that there's funding being distributed throughout the state. So
Sure.
that's just a general, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then a couple of questions on metrics. So as I was reading through that section or finalizing our work on that, the one thing that it doesn't specifically request is like an actual number. In other words, like pounds harvested. Do we not need to include what our projected number would be, or we're just telling that narrative of who is responsible for it and how we're going to track it and those kinds of things? Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, we're not expecting projects to like know what's going to happen necessarily, but the whole point of the metrics part is just so that we can collect data to say these projects were successful and we can prove this by the metrics that they provided. So that's pretty much what that's all about. Yeah, you
Okay.
do not need to do like a fancy projection. We just want the real numbers, and we want to know that there's someone on your team that is assigned, you know, to be responsible for collecting that data. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you can explain as to like how this helps to measure success of your project, that's also, you know, going to make it really easy for evaluators to understand why it's important.
Okay. And just in general on the narrative portions, are some bullet points going to be okay? I mean, not, you know, just thinking and for the ease of reading. I know sometimes it can be hard to.
Yeah. There's no, I think one of the things that is frustrating for people is that there's not a super structure in this application, which I like regretfully, you know, if we get another round of funding, I might try to, you know, make it more specific. But yes, you are more than welcome to use bullet points. Just always, and I'm sure, you know, for anyone who's new to the grant making world, these evaluators know nothing about you. So the more information you can provide to provide the context, the better. The one thing that I have been really, really trying to make sure I highlight for everybody is in the request for applications, and sorry, Kara, I'm like rambling on, but I want to give
this is
everybody
awesome.
this
Keep talking.
Yeah, so in the request for application, you're gonna see at the bottom, so for track 2, it starts on page 31. You're gonna see the scorecard with the review criteria. And so you're going to see the questions that are actually in Amplifund. And then on the right-hand side of those questions, there's a column that tells you what the answer needs to have in it to gain maximum points. So anyone who's working on their application, please use the scorecard. It's literally what the evaluators are given. So it's the same tool that's being used by evaluators. The scorecard is in the RFA for both tracks. If you have questions about, did I answer this question all the way? Check out the scorecard and see what it takes to get maximum points on that. And that's always a helpful guide.
It's a rubric. I'm a teacher, so that's perfect.
Hey, there you go. You got the words.
I have one other, actually two other questions.
Okay.
One is on the work plan itself, and it lists at the top the project goal. And I'm assuming that's the same project goal that we've listed on the application itself, right? We're just transferring that there, or are we writing more of a specific, like taking community engagement and breaking that down into a project in the goal box, not in the metrics?
So that's like another one where I'm like, good God, I made that way more complicated than it needed to be. So, okay. So for that, I'm going to cut and paste the verbiage that's in the rubric, question 8B on scorecard, that really helps you to understand what you want to include in the project goal section. So let me actually just cut and paste that really quick while I have everybody here, and folks can look at that in the chat box. This is from the RFA. I just cut and pasted this from the RFA. The way that there is like a very specific example in the project work plan that's like telling you to link your goals to line items in the budget. I'm going to explain to all of the evaluators, and I apologize for the confusion, that I've realized, I've learned from talking to so many people in the public that modality doesn't work for a lot of goals. because a lot of goals are intertwined with many different funding pools. So please feel free to write your project goal in a way that answers the scorecard aspect of the project work plan. So make that goal work for you. The main goal of the project work plan, which you'll see in what I cut and pasted from the RFA, is really just to tell the story of what it is you're going to accomplish using a timeline. And so I'm actually going to cut and paste the scorecard points too, so that people can see what I'm talking about and then are more familiar when they go into looking at the scorecard later on. So this is an example of the scorecard points that are in the RFA. So you'll see the maximum points you can get for a work plan is 15. And then it tells you what it is you need to include in order to make sure that that work plan is going to be evaluated with the best points that you can get.
Okay.
So hopefully that's helpful. Sorry, it was a long
No,
answer.
that's great. And just to clarify, so the score that you just pasted into the chat, that is specific to the work plan, not the project
Yep.
goal?
Oh, just to the whole work plan. That's to the whole work plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yes, that's helpful.
Okay, great. Awesome.
And I will check out that scorecard just in more detail.
Yes.
Okay, and then I just had a couple little budget clarification questions. Our farm practice is regenerative agriculture, which of course includes livestock in that mix. And so we're wondering if the purchase of livestock can be included in our budget. We didn't see anything specific to that, but we do the whole rotational grazing, you know, and crop rotation with that. So I'm wondering if that's okay.
Yeah, if that's a part of your operation, then yeah, absolutely. That's just so rare in urban agriculture that I'm excited to read
Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps it interesting, right?
I bet. Yeah. So yes, that would definitely be an allowable. It's almost like a, living equipment sort of,
Right.
or
Yes.
supply. Yeah. So yeah, go for it. Mhm.
Okay. And then we are doing a significant portion of this towards community engagement. And we have insurance at the farm as it is. And we're anticipating our insurance costs will go up with more visitors.
Mhm.
So we wanted to make sure that insurance is okay to put in that section for the indirect expenses.
Yes, insurance is a indirect expense. Yep. So anyone who's paying insurance, I'm sure most people are paying insurance. Please list your insurance in the indirect expense column. Your insurance, your rental costs, like anything that your utilities associated with that are all part of your indirect costs. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I have one last budget one. We are hoping to take the for-profit farm and open a nonprofit side of this so that we can continue to do this kind of work. And that's part of our sustainability plan. Is the cost of the paperwork and those fees to do that? Could we include that in the grant?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So if anyone, so things like legal fees, let's say you want to form a cooperative with other farmers, that's like $12,000. Like that's a eligible expense. Anything that is going to help your urban agriculture project be successful or meet your goals is I really honestly, I tried to make the eligible expenses as flexible as possible.
Yeah.
So legal fees, if you need to hire for example, a consultant accountant because you don't know what to do with the funding once you get it,
Yeah.
write that in,
Okay.
whatever you need to make sure that you're crossed your T's and dotted your I's, whether it's legal or anything like that is eligible. So yeah, your paperwork to become a 501c3 would also qualify.
Okay. And then I have a quick question from a friend who just texted me, who's doing a different grant application. And she says, she heard that any expenses that are over 5K fall under infrastructure. Is that
true.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah, just because then that has to be reported on later on as it devalues. There's just state
Got it.
laws about
Okay.
infrastructure. Yeah.
And then contractors, she says all hired contractors fall under consultants. Is that true?
This is
Or is there
true.
like a differentiation with technical assistants? They're all considered consultants, right?
It's such a, the difference between technical assistants and consultants can be a little hairy. A lot of times people who provide technical assistance, that's what they call themselves. We're a technical assistance provider, like, like RCDs or like Natural Resource Conservation Services as a technical assistance provider. So you'll know technical assistance providers because they tend to call themselves technical assistance providers. So you would write your technical, if you're hiring anyone for technical assistance, it could be something like, irrigation system design, that would be technical assistance. To be honest with you, you're not going to be penalized by maybe mislabeling one or the other because it is confusing. Once everybody goes into the contracts phase, we're going to go much deeper into the budget than what you're doing in the application.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the NRCS. So if we have a grant from the NRCS that we can, I've been putting that in that other budget column, like to show how that funding is going to help with the project at large. And that's what that other column is meant for, right? In the budget, how you have.
I do not include any other income in the budget because there's nowhere in the budget in AMPLA fund for external income. It's going to mess up your numbers because it's just tapping up what you're asking for.
I was just talking about the worksheet, but I guess I'm not updating the worksheet, so that doesn't matter.
No,
never mind.
Yeah, that's not going to be a part of the budget in AMPLA fund. It's just going to ask you what you want for this project.
Okay. Well, thank you. I feel like I've monopolized the conversation. I'm sorry. So
we're good. We still have half hour.
All the help.
Okay, you're welcome, Kara. Okay, Danny, your hand is raised.
Hi again, Sarah. I have a few new questions. And again, it's in regard to our internal urban ag project. So I know that one of the goals is to supplement access to fresh food, right? Given that, is it allowable for our organization to, let's say, distribute fresh produce to the community as a way to increase access to food and also tackle a bunch of other issues that communities face without urban ag programming?
Yeah, so in terms of the internal urban agriculture work, here, I'm going to share my screen real quick so that this becomes really obvious, and then you'll just know where to look in the RFA for your answers in case you have more later. So let me just share this real quick. Okay, so does everyone see? This is the RFA. We're on page 13 of 45. So it says allowable costs. So Danny, all of these, it says examples of fundable expenses for track 1 applicants and track 2 subawards. This whole list it's not a complete list. It's just to get your brain juices going. But these are the categories that are eligible, that eligible expenses are in. So what you described, I mean, you'll find it in here somewhere. You're saying like food distribution or whatever. Yes, long story short, answer to your question is yes, that is an eligible expense. But just, you can always refer to this list of eligible expenses on page 14 and 15 if you're having any doubts.
Sounds good, thank you. And then I have like 2 more follow-ups. I hope that's fine.
Sure, that's okay.
I see that there are like a set of and I think you kind of answered this already, Stu. I see that there's a list of like example workshops that we could do, such as food safety and business planning, right? But if we wanted to, I guess, expand upon that and do like soil health, pesticide management, would that be fine? And these will be towards urban farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, workshops, community engagement activities, workforce development, all of those are eligible. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And I had another question, sorry. If we utilize phone for outreach, could we claim phone stipend?
Yeah, you can use stipends. I'm not sure I fully understand what you're asking, but stipends of any kind to help participants stay engaged is an eligible expense.
So if, I guess like for further context, a phone stipend for like the staff to utilize their personal cell phones to conduct outreach. Would that be allowable or no?
Yeah, I mean, it would be part of your outreach expense budget.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. Okay, great. Christine?
Okay, sorry, another question. It's because someone brought it up. So on the budget, I'm sorry if I sound so naive. So on the budget that's in Amplified, not the worksheet. am I only putting what I'm asking for? Do I need to fill out the expenses on all these other ones or just what we're asking for? So like personnel salary and indirect, do I need to do outreach materials? 'Cause we're not asking for any of those pieces.
Just include whatever you're asking for money for. If you're not
That's it.
asking, yep, that's it. If you're
Okay.
if you don't need money for travel, then it just does nothing.
Perfect. Okay. So that's pretty easy then for me. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Brenda.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
Good, good. So a couple of questions on the track one funding scenario. If we're using a fiscal sponsor, are they the lead or are we the lead?
Yeah, so in the intake part of Amplifund, I didn't even know because Amplifund creates this thing that I don't even get to see as an admin, but I guess when you fill it out, it asks you lead applicant, and then it says primary contact, secondary contact, or something like that. The lead applicant will be the fiscal sponsor because their EIN number, their tax ID number will go in with that primary contact information. But then when it asks you for, I believe the verbiage is like primary contact and secondary contact, that would be you or whoever is, the head contact
primary.
for, for like the actual project,
Okay.
not the fiscal. Yeah. But in terms of the lead applicant, it is going to be your fiscal sponsor's information.
And then a question on indirect calculations. So we have the total project cost,
Mhm.
and then we're allowed to ask 30% on top of that for indirect.
No, you can spend up to 30% of your total budget towards indirect costs.
So I'm subtracting instead of multiplying.
Yeah, so like if you are going to apply, yeah, exactly. So the
'Cause,
maximum.
If you do subtraction, then it's a different calculate. You get totally different. You get a swing of almost $70,000 one way or the other. So let's just say our maximum total project cost is $800,000.
Okay.
We could pretend, because that's not it, but 30% of that is 240. So we could ask for 240 for indirect.
If you can justify it.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying,
yeah.
So then our project costs would be, because the way we had done it, the other way was we had a project cost of 615.
Okay.
Then we multiplied that by 30%, and that brought us up to almost 800,000. But it wasn't 30% of 615. So what you're saying is the total project cost has to have the indirect included in there. So
yeah, so I mean I'm a little bit confused, but I'll just tell you what I can say, which is the total. So yeah, I mean, I think you already know the answer, but yes, so out of whatever your total project budget ask is, up to 30% of that may be used on indirect costs. But I mean, you're allowed to ask for up to $800,000. So if your project is $600,000, you still have up to $200,000 that you could ask for indirect costs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
okay.
It's a different calculation. If we use whole numbers, if we use $1 million just for ease, if you use $1 million, then you'd have 300,000 for indirect and 700,000 for programmatic. But if you do 700,000 times 30%, you actually get 210. So then your total project amount would be 910. So that's why this exact question is really, really super important, whether we're subtracting 30% and being able to use that for indirect, or whether we take the total project cost and apply 30% to that, which is the way some grant applications have it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the first scenario, which is just you can use up to 30% of your total budget
so
for
you
indirect.
You subtract. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a rate. It's not a rate applied. It's not an indirect rate applied to the total project.
It's not a rate. No.
Okay, got it.
It's not. Yeah. Sorry.
It's a big difference.
Totally.
The other question was, and then as a track 2 and we have an internal project up to 60,000 that we're allowed to do, does that 60,000 have to be part of the 30%? Or
No.
is it like a sub, you almost treat it like a sub award?
100% number 2. It's like it's like allowing your organization to have one sub award.
Got it.
Yep.
And then in the upfront request for funds and getting that out to the sub awardees,
Mhm.
do they have to spend all their money before they ask for more, or can we grant them for smaller awards, certainly all the money up front, and for the larger awards, it might have to be at a paced level, but we certainly wouldn't want sub awardees to be $5,000 out of pocket before they can get anything.
So we're not writing the financial rules for your subaward program. That is a rule that is up to you guys to decide how you want. If you want everyone to have it up front or not, that's completely up to the community-based organization to decide how they want to distribute subawards. What I can tell you is that you, as the main community-based organization, the track 1 applicant, can request up to 3 months of advance payments from CDFA by filling out that advance payment form. And we cannot distribute any more advance payments to you until we've received invoices to cover the cost of your first advance payment. So
does a grant award notification count as an invoice to be able to receive advance payment then?
So like you select your sub awardee and they are getting $60,000. You
say,
would fill out,
congratulations, you're the winner of a brand new car. Not that, but it's a game show. Yeah.
Yeah, you would all that's required from you as a track 1 grantee is to fill out that table 1 of the subaward guidelines. And as long as you have and you can generate an invoice that shows what that's for, because a lot of organizations are doing purchasing on behalf of subawardees so that subawardees don't have to even deal with getting cash, So the way that you just the way that you dispense the subawards is fine. The only thing that CDFA is requesting or requiring, actually, it's a requirement, is that you submit that table 1 for each subaward, and then we can count that invoice as, okay, that money has been designated, and then you could ask for another advance payment as the track 1 CBO once all of your first advance payment is spent down.
But the table 1 is that, I'm so sorry. The table 1 isn't part of the application process. We haven't awarded anyone yet. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, that's gonna
coming.
That would happen once you start distributing subawards.
Okay. I think that's all my questions for now. And everyone's had such great ones, and a lot of them have been answered. So, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And a lot of these Q&A videos are also recorded and on the website in case they're helpful for later. Okay, great. Thanks, Brenda. I see Seth.
Yes. Hi, Sarah. Just a couple of quick questions. One, and I think you may have indirectly answered this. When I look at track 1 and track 2 applications, or the scoring, with track 1, with regard to staff, you're just looking to see that there's organizational capacity. And I don't think that there's any scoring associated with staff for a track 1 application. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're correct. There's no points assigned to the budget. So yeah, you're welcome to whatever staff you might need to add in order to be able to design a subaward program, do community outreach, and then sign people up and distribute funds. That's all part of your direct costs of your budget, but there's no points that are connected to that.
Right. However, in track 2, you are putting bios and more background about where your staff is located, how they're connected to the community, and that does have a scoring element.
Yeah, so track 2 has a specific question about how team members are related to the community that they serve. But
Okay.
that question does not exist in the track one application.
Okay, and because of that, really, as long as you're seeing organizational capacity in track one, that's all you're looking for, you know, that they
Yeah.
have. Okay,
Yeah, we
Um,
just want to make sure that you can get that you have what you need to, you know, essentially create a new program.
yeah, administer the grant and then you can pull staff on or add
Mhm.
staff or what have you.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I guess, you know, the challenge, well, let's see, because of that, if someone is working to support staff in track one projects, would that preclude them from working with another organization to apply for a track two grant?
Well, all the funding will already be designated by that point in time. So there will be no time to apply for track two grants. Track two will already be
Excuse
closed.
me, not track two, for subawards.
I'm sorry, Seth, can you repeat that
Okay, I'll
question?
repeat that. For someone who is working on staff or providing support for a track one grant, but also spends time working for another community organization
Mhm.
that may apply for a track, subaward. Is there any conflict of interest with that staff person in how they would be perceived as working for two organizations?
Oh, no, I mean, no, I guess in answer to your question, a person can consult on another farm project while also being an awardee of this grant.
Okay,
So, yep, that's fine. They would just be a contractor or whatever it is. I don't know whatever the arrangements are that people will do. But
Okay.
yes, there's no conflict of interest. People have expertise and they should be encouraged to share it.
good, good. And then the second, I think you mentioned that if there's any cost, and this is regarding track two applications, any grant over, any item over $5,000 would be listed as infrastructure.
Yes, it has to be. Mhm.
Well, I think in the budget, there's also an item for equipment.
Oh, let me see.
I thought, I'm not looking at it right now,
That's entirely possible. Um,
because I'm just wondering, you know, we're looking at a track two awardee applicant that's looking to purchase a dump truck, for example.
right.
And whether that would be infrastructure, or if there's a line item for equipment that it would.
Yeah, I
equipment.
see what you're talking about. Yeah, so unfortunately for track two, where you will want to put that is going to be actually, it's going to be under infrastructure. I know that that's a little confusing and I apologize for that.
Okay.
But when you go to the budget and Amplifund, fund, you'll see if you go into the category supplies, category
Yep.
E supplies, there's actually a note in there that says all supplies must have a value of 5,000 or under. For items that cost over 5,000, please include them in under infrastructure. So you'll
Okay.
see that direction in the budget.
Gotcha. Okay,
Mhm.
that's all I had. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thanks, Seth. Okay, so next up, D and D Feldman. I'm not sure if you're speaking, but you are currently on. Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, sorry, it's supposed to be Dina. Thank you for the webinar. This is really helpful. I wanted to circle back to a question regarding the fiscal sponsor. So
Sure.
I get that the primary applicant will be the fiscal sponsor. We're using their EIN. If a fiscal sponsor has multiple applications though coming through, will the secondary applicant name be taken into consideration? We've had situations in the past where our application got denied because someone else had already applied.
Yeah,
the
thank you for bringing
opportunity.
that up. That's super duper important. But yes, it's been brought to my attention that there are multiple farms that are using the same fiscal sponsor. So because that's brought to my attention and I'm the only person doing administrative review, we're all good.
Okay, awesome. And then I had one more question regarding the entire program in terms of what we do as an urban farm. We kind of fall into a couple of different categories. We're an urban farm dedicated to doing workforce development for marginalized youth. And so as part of our program, we grow food that we then distribute to the community. We do composting, and we also do workshops with the community to do like cooking classes and whatnot. So would all of those activities be allowable under this grant opportunity and covered for like programming staff and all the, like if we wanted to expand our compost to include more community? Right now we have like a 5-bin system, but we would love to get 5 more bins. Would that all be allowable as expenses?
Yeah. So your bins would be under supplies because they're probably less than 5, I'm guessing. But yeah, those are all allowable, and you can always just go back to the RFA and look at that list of eligible expenses. Again, it's not meant to be black and white, only the things on this list. It's just, it gives you categories and ways to sort of get your brain moving through all of the different types of eligible activities that you can do. But everything you just mentioned is absolutely A-okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Ethereal.
Hi, my question was about the advance payment form. I can't find it. Where can it be found and where do we submit it?
Yeah, you don't have access to that. That happens much later on in the process. If you receive an award, then there's an opportunity for people to request advance payment, especially, and they're going through the contracts phase takes months. So all of those things will happen if you're selected for an award, and then that comes from the Office of Grants Administration.
Well, is there a place that we can see the guidelines for advance payment to make sure we qualify for that? And then also to be able to like work out our work plan according to that?
Yeah, so there isn't anything other than the advance payment guidelines, which is in the RFA, which you can, so if you read the advance payment guidelines, that is everything that the state has. The form itself is a 1-page form, and essentially you're just gonna like write a sentence or 2 max saying why it is that you need this advance payment. And when I was farming full-time, it's because I don't have the capital in advance to do this without an advance payment. So that would be the 1 sentence that you write, and then you submit that. Once you submit your advance payment request form to the Office of Grants Administration and it's approved, like, okay, we've received your form and it's filled out correctly, you can anticipate about 45 days for that to get processed, and then they mail you a check. So just maybe you want to build in 45 to 60 days from, submitting your advance payment request to saying, okay, I've got cash in hand.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Rolando. Hey there, you were off mute for 1 second. There you are.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, sorry, I'm on the mobile version. I'm figuring this out.
No worries.
So I think somebody asked this question before, but I just want to be 100% clear. If we get an award for tier 2, we would not be eligible for an award, for a sub award under tier 1, right?
This is true. Yes.
Okay, now this is the part that I want to be 100% clear on. Is that determined by the person, the entity, the EIN? How is that determined?
I'm sorry, how is what determined?
The ineligibility.
If you receive funding, if you apply to track 2 and your project receives funding, you are not eligible for sub-award funding from a track 1 organization. That's how it's written into the grant.
That's the part that I want to be clear. It's like, who technically is you? For example, say I have my project, we get approved, everybody does great, the neighborhood's living and thriving. And during the process of me doing my project, I run into somebody and they're a master kombucha maker or whatever, beekeeper, right? And they're like, you know what? I could definitely take this farm a lot further. I'm not Rolando, but I would definitely benefit from a subaward of track 1. Could they request a subaward that would benefit, let's say, the original project, but they are not me?
Yeah, so the if a sub-awardee happens to be like a project collaborator or something like that, that's a natural part, I think, of the urban ag ecosystem, is we all kind of know each other
Right.
very often. So the only thing is that, yeah, so you as the primary applicant and awardee of a track 2 application could not apply. But if you've got a friend who has a business that somehow, whatever, I don't know, you guys know each other, that there's no problem with someone else applying. It's just
Okay.
that you're not allowed to, it's essentially like double dipping and getting funding twice, which is unallowable.
Don't double dip the chip. Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, great, I see Brenda's hand.
Hi, as a follow-up to, I think, Seth's question, so developing the subaward program and doing the necessary outreach and the metrics, what, what's the change you want to see in the community and what would the program look like? That's supposed to be staffing in the indirect? Is that all included in the indirect, or is the indirect is on top? And so we would put that time in the 70%.
Yeah, so the staff time that is necessary to develop the subaward program, to do that community outreach, to let folks know, hey, we've got money to give away for your urban ag work. And then to physically enroll people in whatever you decide. Maybe you decide to do phone interviews or site visits, or all of that staff time that it's going to take to actually get those dollars into the hands of your community members are part of your direct cost staff time. The indirect staff time would be like the back end accounting, insurance, utilities, things like that. So anyone who's directly engaging in the process of the subaward program would be considered a direct cost.
Okay, I was just confused because I think there was a guideline somewhere that said that we must distribute a minimum of 70% of the award.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
If you take the full indirect 30%, and then you also have staff time as a direct cost, you're gonna distribute.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
70.
You're correct. That's actually, there's just been so many after public comment. There've been so many edits that unfortunately it just is not. It's imperfect.
Okay, so then
yeah.
that 70% qualifier is was not updated with all the.
Yeah, 70% just needs to go towards your direct costs, but not towards.
Oh, got it. 70% for direct costs, not distributed. Oh, that's the word. It said must distribute 70%. So it must have 70% of direct costs.
Exactly, and your staff time can be a direct cost to create this program.
Is there any rubric or pointage or
nope.
value to how much you have to distribute at minimum 2 awards?
Yeah, a
Got
minimum. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Okay, the next hand that I see is Chelsea.
Hi, yeah, I just had a quick question. Are we allowed to know who is evaluating?
Yeah, I mean, well, right now I still don't even know I'm recruiting. Most of the people who I'm recruiting are like people who are part of the UCCE Urban Ag Work Group, or they're from the Health in All Policies Task Force through the Strategic Growth Council. So a lot of the people who are being recruited to be evaluators play some kind of role in urban ag and food systems work.
Okay, great. And just another quick question. I am a certified herbalist. Should I include my certificates and things within my application, or does that really matter that much?
You can if you want to, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Some people are including their resume, but it's completely entirely up to you. I think, the more is good, because then evaluators can see more about you, which is nice. But it's by no means is it a requirement, and by no means is a resume a requirement. You can just describe yourself and your qualifications as you describe your team members. And again, I will constantly refer people to just keeping an eye on that scorecard criteria as you answer your questions. It'll give you a lot of guidance.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Feldman, sorry, I think it's Dina, right?
It is Dina. It's
Okay.
my husband's computer.
Right.
I had a question regarding the staff cost. Just to be clear, because again, I'm referencing other grants, so I just want to be clear that for this one, like if someone's tracking data, that if I have a staff that's dedicated to tracking data and measuring outcomes and all that good stuff, that is considered a direct cost.
Direct costs are going to be more for people who are doing the work that's directly a part of meeting your project objective. So that's
Okay.
actually like an interesting gray area. I mean, typically it is a team member who's collecting data because they're the ones in the field. But are you suggesting that you have someone back of house that's somehow collecting data?
No, it would just be part of their hours that they would do.
Yes, yeah,
in
that's
addition
fine.
to whatever other job they would be out there tracking data, or
Totally.
when people come through the market, we have a free farmers market that we do, so tracking the numbers and like ages and all that fun stuff.
You can build in their time for that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Since they're out in the field doing that work anyway. Yeah, that works great.
Great. And then I had another question, but I forgot it. I'll circle back.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. If folks don't have a question, can you put your little hand emoji down? Because I'm going to go on to Mary, who's next in line, but I'm just not sure who's actually got a question. So Mary, go for it. Oh, Mary, you're on mute. Oh, Mary, you're still on mute. There we go.
Okay, let me try this one more time.
Go for it.
Okay, so as far as submitting and the deadline on October 23rd, is it any time that day or is it?
Yeah, I believe the application's up until 5.
Till 5, okay.
I believe it says it in the Amplifund thing though.
Okay.
Don't quote me because I should look. But I know it's at least till the end of the day.
Okay.
It is 5. I can confirm.
5.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Cool.
Yes, so 5 p.m. on Monday.
I think I will have everything submitted prior to that, but just in case, I want to ask, is there any reason to fear if we're all submitting it on Monday that the system will go down?
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen. I've done that. I've been in that situation with USDA grants and oh my gosh, it's horrifying. So, I mean, if you can get it in a couple hours earlier or on Sunday, that's great. But,
Okay.
I mean, I really don't know what's going to happen. This is the first time CDFA's even used Amplifund.
Okay.
In terms of the Office of Farm to Fork, the program, the office that my program is nested into. I mean, I can't tell you if the system is going to crash. I have no idea.
I get that,
But
okay.
I mean, it could.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. That helps.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that helps. And then once the deadline passes and you guys have a chance to process what's been turned in, will there be any disclosure of how many track 1 and track 2
Oh, good. Yeah.
applicants? So we kind of can temper our expectations.
Yes. Okay, so the process that happens for review, just so everybody knows, is y'all submit your applications by the end of the day on the 23rd. Then there's about 3 weeks where it's just going through administrative review to see, like, are you actually in an urban area? And I have to check everybody's census tracts. I have to check all the letters of support have signatures and all the like boring stuff that has nothing to do with the content, right? I'm just checking your eligibility. So that takes 3 weeks because right now I think I have like 250 applications already. So it's like, oh my God. And then after it goes through administrative review, then it goes through technical review. And technical review happens with these people that are recruited from the Health and All Policies Task Force or other places that technical reviewers have been recruited from. They read your applications, they use that scorecard, they score all of the applications, and then we have a list of all the top scored applicants, right? So we're hoping that that should be completed, that the technical review period should be completed by the end of January if everything goes well, but it's all happening during the holidays. So God willing, this is what's going to happen. After the technical review period is done and things are scored, then CDFA has to come back together and figure out, you know, the geographic distribution of everything. So that's February. And then the announcement of who gets awards should happen by the end of the month in February. And you'll get a notice saying either you were disqualified or your application wasn't awarded, or congratulations, you've been selected for an award. And then once we know, and in that letter, it'll tell you how many people applied total to that
Okay.
grant. And then once we have the final list of everybody who's been awarded, that list will be made public and you can read the summary of those proposals that got
Okay.
awarded. And that'll be on
Okay.
our website.
But nothing like in November where we hear 500 applications were put in for track 2. So then we just have a better idea of our chances.
I guess I actually just don't want to incorrectly answer that. I believe that there's a possibility that disqualification and I just don't know. I would say don't
Okay.
hold your breath. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. I just
All
I'm
right,
not sure.
that's fine. It just was a curiosity and make
Okay.
it seem like I wasn't waiting quite so long. But-
I know. I'm sorry. It's so nerve wracking. Okay.
All right, thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, Mary. Okay. And I see Rolando, you still got your hand up?
Yeah, I was just picking up off the points you just laid out. So you said that first is administrative, then it's technical. Now,
Mhm.
there was a key point in there that I found very interesting, and I also did the math. It's about $11 million, a little bit more than that. If you divide that by 300,000 for tier 2, it's about 36 applications, but I'm assuming not everybody's going to ask for that much funds. So it would definitely be more applications than that get approved. You mentioned there's a geographical aspect, and how do you
For track,
guys,
yeah.
for track 1 or track 2?
For track 1, there is a mandate that each
Okay.
region gets at least, $800,000 per region. So yeah.
Oh, okay, but not for track 2.
No, for track 2, there's no mandate.
Okay,
But CDFA wants to, I can't say there's no mandate. So it's just I'm just gonna see who applies and then figure it out after I know what's going on. Because right now, I don't know who's applying
yeah,
for the most
no,
part.
okay. I asked because the reason I'm already cognizant of it is that LA is obviously a very big city. There's a lot of people that are in urban agriculture. I already know people that are applying for this grant.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because we're not applying with the same goals, but I thought the same thing. There was like, it'd be kind of hard to have 2 people ask for 300,000 that live, 10 miles from each other or something like that. That's just how my speculations.
Yeah, it is a competitive grant, so there's that. That's all really that I can say at this point, though. And the track 1 is the one that has the actual written, like at least one CBO per region will receive funding. So, but track 2, it's not like that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, and then like you said, when everybody's awarded, all the CBOs for track 1 would be made publicly available, correct?
Oh, heck yeah, that's the whole point. Yep. So we'll have that listed on our website.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, I know we're over time, folks, but we're still going, so I'm here for you. Dina?
All right, I remembered. I had 2 questions. One was just to make sure that I understood the award and end date. So the award date, start dates would be 5/1/24, and then all projects or programs or everything that was in the grant as promised would be done by 9/30/26. Is that correct?
This is correct. The only thing that I will say is that if you've ever dealt with any grant, the award date, there might be complications that happen during scoring. There might be complications that happen. So it's tentatively spring of 2024.
Okay.
May, it could be June, it could be July, but I am hoping for May,
Sure.
but there's, something might happen. So yeah.
And in that scenario, then would the timeline be adjusted for the end date as well? So that as we're writing all these goals?
Isn't that so
Okay.
crappy? Yeah, so
Okay.
there is a legislative mandate that the funding has to go because it's part of the state budget and they don't like money just dangling around. Like
Right.
it needs to be liquidated by September 30th.
So as far as goals and timelines are concerned, what would your recommendation be? Because, sometimes, we could be a little ambitious as we kind of go through our growing cycle and what we can accomplish in those times. So
I
as
hear
far as
ya.
like goals, like should we kind of keep that in mind? Should we make it more like a year? It looks like more a year and a half, or like, do you have any recommendations for what seems realistic, given that the timeline may be adjusted as to when we get the award, but the actual end date wouldn't be?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like 24 months is solid,
Okay.
you know, so yeah. I think that would be a safe
24 months
thing.
cycle.
Yeah, which would be like September 2024 to September, but that's even really late. I mean, that would be conservative, you
Okay,
know, so
cool.
because
Alright.
I'm hoping to have it out in May, but who knows? So
That helps though. That's definitely, you know, to keep us realistic. Keep us
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
And
I'll do my
then-
best to
and
get
then
it all
we had
done.
a secondary question with regards to special events.
Mhm.
So if part of our program, if we're thinking we want to add like special events to really be able to like engage the community and do more
Mhm.
outreach and really, you know, bring people together, would that be included in budget activities? Like if they're just, you know, quarterly events or something that we want to do on that maybe we haven't done in the past, but we would like to do if we have the funding?
Yeah, you would just put that down in your budget for probably outreach.
Okay, cool.
Yep, that would work.
Awesome.
Oh, there's also actually, there's a line item in track 2 that says event materials. So
Okay,
you
sweet.
can write it there. Yeah. Okay,
Sweet.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Wait, was that Dina? Yes. So Brenda? Did I do that right? I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, gosh, I might have to go back off. I'm trying to absorb all the answers. So
It's getting recorded and this will be posted.
yes.
So-
No, I just wanted to make one point for folks. Don't forget that you can't spend down your last 10%. The 10% comes at conclusion of the project. So when you're doing your project budgets and your work plan, be aware that that last 10% of your total you're on the hook for. And I always get jammed up working until the last end of the project date because that's what the work plan did. And then guess what? You have all the reporting and all the accounting to do. So be kind to yourself in making your project timeline end before September so that you can actually probably get paid for finishing these final reports and getting some reporting. And then also you're reaching out to your partners to give you some metrics, some data, or the last bit of reporting. And then after September, they're already done with the project. So you're having to go back to partners after it's technically concluded to come back and support you in some reporting. So that's just a fresh experience that we've had, is that be kind to yourself on that work plan and give yourself time on the end so that you get paid, and then your partners and collaborators are still within the project period too, and that you're on the hook for that last 10% until you get reimbursed, I guess, up to 60 days out, So be aware of that. My question though is on the letters of support, which I will get, but obviously I'm not gonna, would I reach out to potential subawardees or potential applicants within our sphere of influence or sphere of collaborations? Or would that not be kosher to do?
No, that's great. Yeah, if you just look at the community collaborations matrix, it has a list of potential, like, these are where you could potentially get letters of support from, and it lists a bunch of different like stakeholders that you could reach out to. And I think that it's also in the scorecard as well. It has a list of, here, I'll share my screen. It'll
What's
take
the minimum
one.
number for track 1 of letters of support?
So that's
I
also in the
remember that was a
scorecard.
question.
Yeah, it's all in the scorecard. So I would definitely reference that, because if you want maximum points for track 1, it's 15 letters of support. That's for maximum points. But they could be volunteers, they could be community members, they could be people, they could be farmers, they could be, I mean, the list is it's all in the scorecard. You'll see that list. It's very wide ranging. It's not like asking for the mayor or anything like that, you know. They're people who you engage with. So yeah, there's clarification in the community collaboration matrix doc, but it's also just look at the scorecard and it'll tell you how many letters and what points you'll get for all of that.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Brenda. Okay, Christine.
Okay, and back to budget, sorry. Real quick question, so for personnel, the staff, it asks for us to list the staff and how much we're asking for each member. So we're gonna ask for 4 of our staff, and then it asks for total projected for the entire thing, which is, I guess, 15 months, or no, 27 months. So can I take it for the entire organic food distribution program budget for compensation, or do I have to do it only for those 4 staff salaries?
So the personnel salary that you can include is whoever's directly working on the objectives of the project that you've described for the entire duration of the grant period. But I'm not really sure that I got your question.
So we have about 15 for production and distribution. Those 2 people, they're the ones, are farmers, and then the people that go out in the community and do our offsite distributions. It asks very specifically for salaries of the people. So should I just ask for just be general and say production and distribution salaries? I'm just.
Oh, are they salaried or are they stipends that you usually give?
No, they're
Like,
salaries. These are
they're
farm
salaries?
staff.
Oh, yeah. So then, yeah, you would include, oh, I see what you're saying. Instead of listing 15 positions.
And they go like 5, because we're asking for 210 for that, so 5,000, or do I just go general?
I mean, so yeah, I think we do want to know how many people, but if you don't want to just repeat the same thing, you can just write 15 members, or however many folks, and then the salary number for that.
Even
As
though
opposed
they're
to just,
paid different salaries, that's the only other thing too. Does it matter?
oh, honestly, you can, there isn't really a right answer to that question aside from, yeah, I mean, if you are comfortable listing each individual one, that's great. If you would rather just have the cost for delivery and say this is divided between our 10 folks in operations or delivery,
Perfect.
that's acceptable as well. So
okay, great. So we have production and distribution. So I'll do like 10 production salaries.
yeah,
10 production distribution, and then our overall. Perfect.
Yeah.
That makes me so much happier.
no,
Okay.
totally. And you have the little narrative box, so
Yeah.
you can write a little description of,
Right.
There's no formatting requirements for the narrative box. Tell us everything you can.
Individual was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be
Yeah, you don't
crazy.
have to do that. That's fine.
Thank you so much. Okay.
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Okay, welcome. Folks, we are at 5:15. Are there any, this is the last time that you can submit a question. Q&A ends, phone calls, emails that are all done after now. So if anyone has any last lingering things, I'm still here. If not, I just want to say thank you all for your participation. I'm very much looking forward to reading your applications, and I'll get this video up as soon as I can. I'll send it to the web team now, but no one's at the office after 5, so I'll try and get it posted by the end of the day tomorrow. It's just based on the web team responding to me. So thank you all so much, and we'll be in touch. You have my email. I can't answer questions, but I'll be around. Have a great rest of the day, all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Seth.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Have a good
Thank you,
one.
Sarah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Take care, everybody.